Okay, assalamu alaikum again. It's 2:05. Mosna, should we wait longer or should we start with the class?
No, I think you should just start.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is week 6 for the Python course. We were supposed to finish in 5 weeks, but we had to take it a little slow. Today is probably not going to be as long a class as it usually is. Because there's very little that I need to actually teach now. And then there's two small assessments or pieces of code that you're going to write within the class timings, which is the reason why we did not upload the slides earlier, because I wanted you to try them out in class. If you have any problems doing them there and then you can discuss with the other participants, with me, and then kind of find out how to do it there and then. This should only take about 10 minutes max for each piece of code, but still I would be giving you more time than that. So I'll open up and share my slides. Okay, so the same course outline. This week we're going to be going over what modules are essentially, and then like I mentioned, there's going to be an in-class assessment. So modules in Python. Modules are essentially, you may find them to be similar to functions as well. And it's basically a file that contains a specific set of definitions or statements or functions again, or variables for Python that you can call upon and reuse as you need them essentially. So it can define functions, classes, and variables. And a module can also include runnable code. So yes, it could just have some variables, or it could have runnable code in it, or it could have both. And essentially what you do is you combine all similar codes or all similar themes. Let's say, for example, if you can make a module of maths, and that would have a short code for addition, a short one for subtraction, and then multiplication, division, and then all of those, the logs and the signs and all those. So you can have multiple modules if you like. So if you want a separate module, let's say for basic arithmetics, and a separate module for trigonometry, and a separate one for algebra and all of that, you can do that, or you can combine them in one module and reuse them instead of having to write the code over and over again. So again, this also makes the code logically organized. So a simple module would essentially be, this may be easy to understand because we've done many addition and subtraction functions. We've also defined them in the last class, so we know how this works. So here, this is a simple module. You save it as a .py file. So the name of this file is calc, short for calculator.py. And inside that file, it's just two functions. The first function is add. So def defines a function, and the name of the function is add, and you're giving it 2 parameters. And what it returns is the sum of the 2 parameters. The same, def means define. The name of the function is subtract. You're giving it 2 parameters, and it returns the subtraction or the difference of the 2 parameters. Okay. So again, like these come built in Python as well, but you can write your own as well. It kind of is how you, it's all about how you like to program. So once you've made that py file, how would you call onto it? So the same way that if you remember, we called onto a function random when we wanted to generate a random number. And also for some of you who did try that date time thing with the current date time, you imported that module as well and then made use of it. Okay, so we always, whenever we want to use a module, even if it's one that's built into Python or if it's one that we've created like the calc.py, we have to import it. So you import it using the import function and then the name of the module. Now you can write it simply as this is, or like I did mention, I believe in the second or the third week, you can also import calc as, let's just C. Okay, so that way you don't have to write the whole name of the function each time you're trying to call it, the whole name of the module, I'm sorry. So for example, there was a module by the name of maths. So you could write import maths as M, and then you would do M dot the name of the function and use it as it is instead of writing the whole maths again. So that's just different ways of importing it. What's important is the import command and that you know what module you want to use. If it's a built-in one, it would have a specific name again. If it's something you're creating, then you need to make sure that it has the same name as the name of the file that you've created. Okay. So when an interpreter encounters an import statement, it imports the module into its memory essentially. So it says if the module is in the search path. So paths are important as they are for any other thing as well, really. So it's important that you, wherever you're working, your current workspace on the idle shell, or if you're using another one, your current workspace is the same workspace that has your module in there. Okay. So again, you import the module and then you simply use its function. So print, and within the print command, you use the function add 10 to, and it's going to give you the answer. Now, there's also a from import. Like for modules that you write yourself, or like the module that we saw in the first slide, it just had two functions. So when you're loading it into Python's memory, which means essentially that you're loading it into your machine's memory, it would not take up too much space. So it's, you know, you can simply import it. But for some built-in modules in Python, which you can, you can easily go onto Google and ask for a list of modules, and they keep updating them because with every new version, they add on some built-in ones as well. So from there, you can find the actual list of modules, and then you can import. So the simple way would have been import math. But because maths is a very large module, and if you look inside of it, it has hundreds of functions in there. But if you feel that you will not be using all of those functions, or maybe even half of those functions as part of your code later on, as a part of your script later on, and there's just one or two functions that you are going to be using, so you can simply just import those. So what this command here is doing, it's telling Python to that from maths, which is the name of the module, import these functions. So now it's not importing the whole module, it's just importing a part of the module, which is this function square root and this function pictorial. Again, you can do this if you feel that you would run short of memory if you import the whole thing, or if you feel that you're never going to use it, so it's kind of doesn't make sense for you to import the whole thing. So you can just do a basic a list of functions that you do actually want to use, and you write from the name of the module, whatever module they are a part of, and then import and the name of the function separated by commas. So the usage slightly changes. For example, if we had written import maths, when we were going to use the function, we were going to do math dot square root and then the number, or math dot factorial and then the number. But when you've imported the function directly, you don't need to write math dot before it. You can simply write the name of the function and use it as it is. Let's try and do an example on the shell with the same math one. I'm going to share that as well. Can you see the shell now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Keep it to a side so you can also see what's on the screen back there. And we want to let's say we want to start with from import. Okay, so from math import, and we'll just do 1. Okay, square root. And since it hasn't given you an error and simply moved on to the next prompt, it means that it has successfully imported this function from the math module into its memory. So now when you want to use it, you simply write the name of the function, and then whatever input you want to give to it, and you can use it. Okay. But now we can't use, let's try and see if we can use a factorial, because we haven't imported it. So because factorial is within its memory currently, it's not defined as a function or even as a variable or anything really. So it doesn't know essentially what we're talking about here. Now, if we do an import math directly, you see it's not giving you an error again. And now if you try factorial, it should work. It still isn't working. Why? There's a different name for factorial.
I tried from math import factorial, that worked. I don't know.
No, you did from math import factorial. It worked, and then you did the factorial as well.
Yeah, I did.
And
it calculated. Yeah.
Then why isn't, when we import the whole math thing, why doesn't it work? That's strange. Okay, let's try that. Import factorial. And then write. Okay, I know what happened there. Up there. Okay, so what happened there was, which I had mentioned here as well, when we're simply doing an import math, then we have to start the name of the function with the name of the module as well, which we didn't do over here. We imported maths, but we didn't do math dot factorial. This would work. This wouldn't give an error. So this is where we went wrong. So even though I was telling you about it, I completely forgot it when I was actually applying it. So yes, when you're importing specific functions from a module, you can use the function name as it is. When you're importing the whole module, you have to write the name of the module, dot the name of the function, and then it knows what you're basically, that helps Python know what you're talking about. Okay. Now, if you think that it's going to be difficult to write math, even though it's just 4 letters, over and over again, what we can do is import math as M. So now instead of writing math.factorial, if you simply write m.factorial, it would work. This is because this module M, it's kind of in its memory, it's changed its name to this module math, it's changed its name to M. I see. Okay, do you get that? So these are simple ways of importing modules. And then there are multiples of modules out there. There are separate ones for maths and physics users. There are separate ones for, let's say, data analysts who are working more with data science. There are separate ones for graphics, for plotting, all those, graphs and bar charts and all those things. There's also separate ones for 3D graphics. You can also create 3D graphics in Python. So there are modules built into Python or available for download that you can install into your machine very easily. And you can, just go onto Google, write a list of Python modules, and it's going to give you a list of the, let's say, the most popular ones or the most commonly used ones. Okay, any questions so far? No. Okay, that's good. Okay, so this is just going on with the same and, working with some more functions within the maths module. I left them here because I know it's going to be very boring to keep doing different maths functions because you're not really here for a maths lesson, but just so you can experiment with them. So the maths modules, again, like I said, it has hundreds of functions built into it. And these are just some examples. So we looked at the square root, we looked at the factorial, and there's pi, there's degrees. So there's ways that you can convert degrees to radians and radians to degrees. Then there's the sine, cos, tan. Then there's also the log, the natural log or log base 2, and exponentials and all those. So all the basics, and then let's say the more advanced ones as well, they're all a part of the math module, and you can use them the same way as math.sqrt for square root, math.pi for pi, math.degrees, math.radians. So the same way, the name of the module and then the name of the function, and then whatever input you want to give into it, and it's going to return an answer. Now you can, like we did on the screen, we didn't use it inside the print command because we were working directly on the shell. So it would have given us an output on the shell as it is. But you can use these functions inside print commands as well, or you can use the function, save the output in a different variable, and then print that variable. It's completely up to you. And if you notice, in all of these images that I've shared here, they've added a line of comment at the top, 1 or 2 lines, which basically explain what is happening under there. And which is a good thing, especially when you're doing, when you're new to the programming world. it's good that you keep writing comments into your code, because you can always delete them later if you think they're too much, and they won't hurt the code in any way. They don't take up too much space in terms of memory, and they take up no space in terms of interpretation and compilation, because they're completely ignored by Python. They're just there for you to understand later on why you did what you did at that point or at that line. Okay. Okay, this is another function which we already tried earlier as well, which was import random, and we generated a random number. Now you can generate a random number without giving it a start or an end point. So if you just want to generate a random number as it is, it can be random.ranInt. If you want to, let's say, generate a random number between 0 and 5 in this case, or between 10 and 100, or any range essentially, then you can give it that range as well, and it's going to generate a number in that range. So every time that you run this function, it's going to generate a new number. And for us, it's obviously random. For the computer, there is certain number of calculations that are still going on there, which a lot of people do say that in the end it means it's not entirely a random number. But for us and for most of the places that we need to generate random numbers, these work perfectly fine. Okay. And then there's different options. So you can generate a random integer, or you can generate a random float. And then you can either directly, within the print statement, again, run another function on it, add numbers to it, multiply numbers to it, anything at all, or you can do it separately as well. Now, this here is another interesting, because so far when we used the random number, what we did was we were generating just numbers. Okay, we weren't working with strings or lists. Now the random choice function, which is the random module, and the choice function, what it does is that if you give it a list, let's say this list here, it's going to pick one element or one entry from that list at random. Okay, and then it's going to output it. So the list, again, within a list, you can have just strings, you can have numbers and strings, you can have floats, you can have any kind of values ready. So let's try and do this on the shell. So since I like my colors list a lot, I'm going to go with the colors list. Okay, so here's my list. I'm going to print it out to see if it's the same. So it's red, yellow, green, blue, orange, purple. It has 6 entries. And what I want to do now is I want to choose an entry out of this list at random. Now, in order to do that, I would need to first import random, because it's not built in directly into Python. It's there in its memory, but it needs to be called upon, let's say. So import random. not giving me an error, which means it has imported the module. Now random dot choice, and then the name of my list was colors, and it's randomly picked out the second entry. Let's try and do this again. So random dot choice colors, and now it's picked green. So it's going to, since this is a smaller list, eventually after, or maybe even after a few turns, it's going to pick up the same entries. But when you're working with longer lists or with bigger data, the chances of it picking up the exact same entry again would be quite low. Okay? So it is essentially, for us, it is like random. So back to the slides again. There's another import one here, which I did want to go through because we did do a date time thing earlier. And I told you that we would be looking at this module later on. So this is a brief of that, let's say, just to show you what the output is like on screen if you're importing this module. So the name of the module is date time. It's combined, okay? And you can either import just date, or you can import just time, or you can import the whole thing, okay? And then when you print it, it's going to print the current time or the current date. It depends on what function you're using within that module then. Okay, so let's go to the shell and import date time. It's not giving us an error, which means it's probably done it, okay? So now we're going to try date time dot time. And I haven't used this before because I don't work with the kind of data that I work with. I don't use dates and times and all of those. So this is the first time I'm using this as well. Okay, it's given me a 0, 0. What does that mean? Let's do time dot time. Name time is not defined. Okay, maybe date time is a different thing and time is a different thing. For time and then time dot time. Okay, so it's given us. So you see here in the on the slides, this here returns a number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. So this value here is actually the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. Let's try the last one. Okay, why is there a number over there? This doesn't seem to be working. Let me check where I'm going wrong. Because like I said, I haven't used this myself. But I did want to show it to you so that you know. Okay, so yes, we're going to write this again, just to confuse, stop, end the confusion. So import date time. Again, the name of the module that we were trying to import is correct. I just did not know the name of the function that we were supposed to call. So first we write the name of the module, then it's datetime dot now. So what it's given us is the date and the time currently, if you notice here. The year, the month, and the day. And what do you think this is here? This 14 is
I think
2
that is
o'clock,
the minute.
essentially.
That's the minute.
Yeah, hours, minutes, seconds, and then milliseconds, essentially. Okay, so this is within the datetime module. Datetime dot now is the name of the function, which would give us the current date and time. Okay. Now let's say if we didn't want the, well, we simply wanted the date. There would be a function for that as well. So date dot today. So if you notice, I don't know if you can see it here, but when I'm writing these, it's giving me all of these options here as well. Okay, so this comes with the newer versions of the Python shell, where if in some case you forget the actual name of the function, you can find it from here. So there's C time, day, there's this from is format, from is O calendar, ISO calendar, okay, from ordinal and all of those, okay? But I want to do today. So I want the date time today. So now it's going to give me just the date today because I asked it for just the date. Here we asked it for the date time and we asked for now. Here we asked for the date for today. So remember you had a little question, a little exercise where you were supposed to ask someone when they were born and then tell them how old they were. So essentially what we did there was we were entering it, entering the year essentially as the year in numbers, okay? So we were adding 2021 there and then subtracting the birth year to find the age. But a better way to do it, a more accurate way to do it, where you wouldn't have to keep going back every year and changing the year and there in numbers, is that you import the datetime module and you use this date function here to find the date then, and this also would give you a more accurate answer. So there we were only checking for the year. Here you can give back a response in the number of this many years, this many months, and this many days old. Okay. So I would, if you do get a chance, please do go back to that exercise and try doing it with this datetime function now and see, one, how much more lines of code you want to add, and try and understand if maybe even adding 1 or 2 extra lines of code actually makes your result better, or do you think it's still the same, or it's going to be good if you try and experiment with this now on that exercise. Okay, so modular programming. Modular programming essentially is using modules in programming, and a lot of people like to use modules within Python, which is why Python has a large list of modules available. And a lot of people also call this a modular programming language. So this essentially refers to the same, that what you're doing using modules is that you're breaking down, let's say, larger problems into smaller ones, or kind of grouping similar things together. Okay. So it refers to the process of breaking a large, unwieldy programming task into separate, smaller, more manageable subtasks or modules, you may call them. And they can be cobbled together, which means they can be used together like building blocks to create a larger application. So instead of writing one large script, and within that script, defining a new module, defining a new function, and then using them further on, what you can do is you can create separate files for each module that you've designed, let's say, or that you've written. And then within the main file, you can simply import the modules. This would make your code simpler and neater and easier to understand. And this way, when you want to use those modules for another piece of code, you again would have the files built in there and then, and you can simply import them. If you had just put them all in one big file, you won't be able to import them to use for another function. Okay? So there are several advantages of modularizing or breaking down essentially your code. One is simplicity. So rather than focusing on the entire problem at hand, using a module, you can typically break it down into smaller chunks or smaller portions, and then focus on them separately. And in the end, connect all the pieces. Maintainability. So mostly modules are written in a way that minimizes interdependency. So they're not dependent. So one module is not dependent on another module. Okay. Which means that for example, if you want to use the maths module, you would not have to import maybe 5 modules before that to be able to use the maths module. So the functions within that module can be used just by importing that particular module. Okay, so this is what it means. So, which makes it easier to share your data, to be able to collaborate, to be able to work together with people in separate locations, let's say, when you're working on large applications. And then reusability, which I mentioned earlier as well. So when you have them written separately in separate files, it's easier to reuse them. It's easier to just simply import them and use them instead of writing them over and over again, or even just copying pasting them from one main file to another one over and over again. So if you have those files saved as .py and simply import them, whatever functions are in there can be used within your new piece of code as well. So you don't need to duplicate code. This eliminates the need to duplicate code. Okay, and this is about it actually for modules. That was the last topic that was in fact left in this course. There's still, this is a beginner's level course for Python. Once you get into it and once you start working on these basics, you will be able to appreciate what a large variety of things you can do when you're working with Python or with Perl or with any other programming language for that matter. But again, like I mentioned in the first class as well, Python has over time it's gained popularity a lot. So everyone wants to learn Python because it's the next in thing, or not even the next. It's an in thing now, and it's probably going to remain an in thing for another decade or so. So it's good to at least know the basics and work on them, and then maybe later on we can maybe talk to Mosla and the Khwarizmi Science Society and arrange another, let's say a medium level course for Python or something. Meanwhile, there's two challenges that I want you to do. 1 and 2. I'll go over them. They're very simple. Don't get scared just looking at so much text in there. And they don't necessarily have to do with functions and modules. They are more, more based on what you learned earlier in the first 3 lessons. Okay, so the first one, which I would want you to do, right now, because then we're supposed to take a break at 3:15 to 3:30. So we have half an hour, which is more than enough time to be able to do this. And then if you have any questions, we can, look into those as well. So you're supposed to write a program to ask the user to enter their school username in the following format. Now, the format is important, okay? Because everything here on is also going to be based on the format. So here, what you essentially have to do is you have to ask the user for an input, okay? So this is important. You have to ask the user for an input, and it has to be in a particular format. The start has first 2 digits have to be the year group, okay? So even if it's year 7, it has to be 07, okay? So within this format, within this username, the first 2 digits have to represent the year. If it's just a 7, start it with a 0 and it's going to be a 07, or it can be 11 for year 11. And for the staff members, the year is going to be 00, okay? Because here it doesn't say that we're only looking at students. It's a school, you're going to have teachers, you're going to have the admin staff, you're going to have the students. So for all the staff members, it's a 00, the year. And for the students, it varies. Then the next character after that, which is essentially the 3rd character in your format, is going to be their initial, 1 character of their initial, the first letter of their first name. For example, my first name is Roop, so I would just use R here, okay? Then the user's last name. This means the whole last name, okay? So my last name is Umar, so I'm going to write R and then Umar. And then the last 2 is a code, okay? It's a 2-digit code. Where essentially, the first one is an underscore, and the second one is an S or a T or an A, okay? So it's kind of a code to identify at the first look which of these are students, which of these are teachers, and which of these are the admin staff, okay? So an underscore S for students, an underscore T for teachers, and an underscore A for the admin staff. Now here is an example of some of the valid usernames. 07J FOX underscore S, okay? Which means 07 was the year, the first name initial was J, Fox was the surname, then underscore S shows that's a student. We'll move on to here. 11 R Taylor underscore S. So 11 was the year, R was the first initial of the first name, Taylor is the surname, and underscore S means student. Again, 00J Oliver underscore A. 00 represents staff, J is the first letter of the first name, Oliver is the surname, and underscore A represents that it's the admin staff, okay? So this is to explain essentially that you want the user to enter their username in this format, okay? Now comes the interesting part where you're supposed to check if they've entered it correctly or not. Excuse me. So now you have to check, and there's a number of things that you have to check to make sure that the username that they've entered is correct. So the first one, if the username is less than 6 characters, the program should ask the user to enter a valid username. Okay, people might have short names, which may mean that it could be less than 6 characters, but still, you want, if the username is less than 6 characters, this is the first check that you want. So when a user inputs a username, the first check you want to do it on it is that, is it 6 characters long or not? If it's less than 6, which means if it's 5 or 4 or 3 or 2 or 1 character, then you need to ask the user for another input. Okay, tell them that their input is wrong and they need another, you need another input. Okay. The second check, if the username does not contain the character underscore, should ask the user to enter a valid username. Now, again, you need to check the string that they entered to see if it has underscore. If it does not, then you need to ask the user to re-enter. Okay, tell them that they've not entered the correct username and to re-enter it. The third, if the username is valid, okay, which means that it's meeting all the basic requirements for the username, then the program needs to decide if the user is a member of the staff or a student. So now you need to differentiate if this is staff or student. And if you remember, the year for staff was 00, and the year for student was any other year, but it could not be 00. Okay. So all those with the 00 would be the staff. If they are a student, the program should find out their year group. Now, if you find out that the user entered as a username belongs to a student, you want to find out what their year is, okay? What their year group is. So again, it's going to be the first 2 digits. Could be year 7, could be year 11, could be year 3, could be year 5, okay? The program should also display the initial of the student as well as their last name. So on the screen, print out separately that this is the initial. This is initial means the first letter of the first name, and this is the last name of the student, okay? And then finally, your program should display whether the user is a student, teacher, or an admin, okay? So this again would be the last bit. So remember the last code, there was an underscore S, underscore T, and underscore A, which would separate out between student, teacher, and admin. So check that and see what entry there is in that part of the username, and then identify. Okay, and print to the screen that this is a student. Yeah, this username belongs to a student. This username belongs to an admin staff. Okay, so this is the first program that I want you to write. I'm going to leave this on the screen. Okay, and I would really want you to first, try, even if you think it's going to be, difficult to write it in code directly, just kind of think of how you would do it logically and write down the steps in simple English words. That makes it easier to then convert them to code.
Roop, will it be possible for us to see the previous slide as well? Like perhaps you could open it in some other window.
Okay.
Yeah,
but then
like
they're too small. I can, but
Ma'am,
yeah.
I'm
I
sorry.
don't understand how to do this. It looks really confusing.
Yeah, but it's not. It's actually very simple. Just Okay, so Muhammad Azam, it's not very, I know it sounds very difficult in the first go, but like I said, just break it down into smaller parts. Okay. The first part is you need to figure out a way of how to get an input from the user. Okay. And then check the input in separate parts. Okay. Then in the end, you will be able to combine them. So you'll be working with if else, elif statements, you'll be probably working with the for loop as well. Okay, can you see it now? So this is the first part, and this is the second part. This is the first programming challenge, okay?
Okay. But ma'am, can I do it like one page?
But then you won't be able to see both of the pages. It's on 2 pages.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, I see everyone is working very quietly. Are you able to understand how to do it?
Yeah, it's going on.
Okay, that's good.
Ma'am, I think it's a bit hard.
A little, yes, but even if you can do maybe, 3 out of the 6 checks, it should be good. Okay, some of you might be on your break right now, but if you have the old slides in your systems, if you open up the slides for lesson number 2, week 2, they should really help you because it has all of the lists, kind of all of the different functions and with numbers and with strings that you can do. So there was this function where you could check what it starts with or ends with. Is alpha, is digit, returns the length of a string. And then you can find the find function, basically you can use to find a specific thing inside a string. Gee, if you see the shell here, I've shown you how you can, pick out a part of a string. And now you want to check on that part whether it's a digit or not, right? So then you can use the is digit one. You can save this as a new string. So let's say b equals a 2. Now when you print b, it's we. Okay. You can also check it as it is, or if you're more comfortable saving it as another variable and then checking it, you can do that as well.
Ma'am, are you even speaking? Because the class is quiet.
Okay, yes. So how far have you reached so far? Because it's been almost an hour. Were you able to do any of you, were you able to do any part of it or the whole of it, or are you stuck somewhere?
How are we identifying if between the admin staff and teachers?
Using this code at the end, the 2-digit code at the end, the underscore one. So underscore T is for
And you
teacher.
should have 2 pages. I am working the 2 pages.
Underscore A is for the admin staff.
No, that's fine. But for staff, you have given in the description that 00 is for staff.
Yeah, that's the staff would include everyone. The staff would include the teachers and the admin staff. So both of them would have 0, 0. But then to differentiate between those two,
Yeah.
there's the code at the end that says _p and _a.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. But I still didn't get it that, like, okay, somehow we will have to differentiate between the both in our code.
Yeah.
Because
What part are you referring to exactly?
no, I mean, if I check if the user has entered 0, 0, I would,
Yes.
that's straightforward. I would give the command that print it as an A.
No, not print it as an A. Print it as a staff member.
Yeah, okay. And then
if you want to find out if the staff is a teacher staff or an admin staff. So there's two kinds of staff.
yeah, exactly. Sure. Okay. Yeah.
So for that, you have to look at the end of the string.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry if you answered this, but I'm also confused that, for example, if the code is testing for S at the end once, so how
Yes.
would it then test for A and T? I don't know. I tried elif again and again, but it does not seem to work.
Okay. Can you share your code, maybe?
Yep. Wait a second.
Yeah. I'll stop.
I think I'll have to enable.
I think you are, but I'll just check again. It does say that you're allowed to share.
I don't know. It says host disabled participants.
Okay, try again, please.
Oh yeah, it works now. Wait a second. Let me see. Yep. So this is something I was trying. I don't think it's working. Like it works till here. But then
Okay,
this thing does not work.
because this elif, if you remember, indentation is very important.
Yeah.
So this elif is actually a part of this, the way you're indenting it.
Okay, so it should have been here.
Yes, yes.
Okay, wait, let me try this. Then I guess this would also.
This would also, yes.
Wait a second. Yeah, so it isn't giving me an error, so I guess it should work now. All right,
Okay.
I'll work on the rest
So
of it.
yes,
I'll
that
stop
was the
sharing.
problem with the indentation.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Ma'am, I'm struggling.
Okay, what part are you on? How much have you done so far?
I don't understand anything. Like I'm trying to do my best, but like I can't understand.
No, that's okay. Just take it in parts. Did you do the first part? Did you ask the user for an input?
I'm trying to think about it.
Okay. Do you not remember how we asked the user for an input?
No, I forgot.
Okay. Do you have your old codes with you? The old script files that you wrote?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you should have them there as well. Do you remember we did this little exercise where we asked the user, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah, where we asked the user to input how old they were, right?
Yes.
So the same way we're going to ask the user for an input. Okay, let's just try and do it in the shell. And you can save it as username. So username equals.
Wait, I think it would be better if I do it in Untitled.
Okay, you can do it there. or you can do it in a shell. Because you'll be working on that later on, so it's good that you do it in a script file and then you have it saved, because once you close the shell, everything is gone. Okay, so username equals input. Please enter please enter your username. Okay, so this is simply how you ask the user for an input, and then you wait for them to give you an input. Okay, so for example, the user gave you, I use the same as I was using above, 11R Taylor underscore S. Okay. So now within your code or within your shell, it saved this as a string in username. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the first part, so I'm not going to write the whole script here, but I'm just going to give you an idea of how it's going to work. Okay, so let's see what we're supposed to check here. Okay, so the first part, it says, if the username is less than 6 characters, ask the user to enter a valid username. So you're going to write this for your script as an if condition, right? Here, I'm just going to tell you how to find the length. So you can use the length function, len, to find the length of this username. And its length is 11, right? So in your
Yes.
case, what you were going to do was, if length of username is greater than equal to 6, right? This is what you're supposed to check, right?
Yeah.
And then you write in here whatever you wanted to do. Okay. So then you can, within this, you can go on and check for the other characters. Okay. So now the next part was to check if it had the underscore sign, right? So you can add that in the same. So the first check you had was that it's greater than or equal to 6. Then another check, if username dot find should return true as well. Let's see what it does here. Or there would be another way to check for it as well. Syntax error, okay. Which is why I don't like writing it in the shell, but it's okay. Give me a second, let me check if Okay, so one thing to remember with the find function is it doesn't return true or false. It returns an integer value. And if it does not find it, what it will return is -1. Okay, so we want to check that it's not equal to -1. Okay, and then print. Okay, so this is just one part of it, where when the user entered a username, you check, this was the simplest check. You checked if the length was greater than 6, and then if it was, you check that, so this is a nested if. You checked if it had the underscore sign, and if it did, what you did was, you printed out you have entered a valid username. Now in here, I haven't included the other checks, and I haven't included an else part. So what if the length was less than 6? Or what if it did not find the underscore sign? What would it do then? So you're supposed to add that too. I'm going to let you work on that now. Okay, what about the rest? We have another programming challenge to go to as well, you know. Is this too hard? I thought this was going to be the easier one. Just a combination of if conditions and for loops and some very basic functions that we learned.
Actually, right now there is an error which says that you cannot print together the strings and integers. And
what? Can you share your screen?
Yes.
I'll stop sharing and then you can share.
Okay. So I guess that's do you see it? Hi, can you see the screen?
Yes, I can.
So actually,
okay, so you're using a different kind of format.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So print, register yourself.
And actually, when I last run it,
Yeah.
now actually I have added this thing, so I'll see. Which
Okay, I can't see the, I think you've only shared your, you've not shared the whole screen, so I can't see what you get when you try and run it.
do you see it now?
Yes, I see it now.
Now it works.
Okay, you asked them to enter it separately.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
but
the problem was here. Last error was here that the strings and integers cannot go together in the print. And then I looked through internet, for example, here, and it says that I guess probably you also told this, but this was not in my mind, that you can print together the strings and integers, but you have to tell the compiler.
What? Yes.
What is what?
So yes. So basically, you're telling it to print the integer as a string as well, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So this is one way of doing it, but here, if the user puts in something else, would you keep asking the user for an input, or what? How would that work?
So
So if the user put in a wrong,
it would actually, for example, there is a problem like I have what now if I enter 100, for example, here, it would ask that you need to re-enter.
okay.
But there is one problem, which is that, for example, if I enter 1,
Yeah.
it will still take it as a valid input, because I have not made this check of having 2 integer values, right? Which was also one of the requirements.
Yes. Yes.
So my condition is that if it is less than 0 or greater than 99, then it would be an invalid input. Otherwise, it's all valid. So it's not done in the right way.
Okay.
This part.
So this is one way of doing it, but essentially what you wanted to do was you wanted to take one input. So instead of breaking down the input from the user into multiple parts, you had to take one whole input as their username and then do all the checks on them.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is also, this kind of forces the user to enter it till they enter the correct number.
Yeah. So they should also do some exercise. Yeah. Actually, right, that way there would be more checks and more use of the loops also, which we have studied.
Yes. Yes. Fatma, का question आया है chat में. Is there any other method to check without the false command? Which one are you talking about? Which false command? Can you copy paste the command over here जो आप लिख रही हैं, जो check कर रहे हैं? Okay, so we have just about half an hour left for the class. I thought this was, going to take maybe 10-15 minutes to do. But seems to be taking longer. Please let me know how much you were able to do so far, or if there's a certain place where you're stuck. And then maybe the other programming challenge we can leave for you to, do in your own time.
Roop, I think you should start sharing how you had done it or the solution. I believe everyone would have done the most part of it.
Okay, I did not write the complete code for it myself because I wanted to, see what you would do, because there's multiple ways in which you can do it, which is why I was, writing these little bits out of the code that you can use.
Can you see it now?
Yes. Okay. So this is a username, the year, the code. Okay, less than 6.
Actually,
Okay.
it was not working with false. I wanted to use this false statement here that it is not, for example, here, if year dot is digit something is not equal to true, then it should return that that is an invalid username. But it's not, that's not working. And then I
Okay.
changed it and I that removed this false statement, and then I printed that it's a valid username. And then again here, I think it should have worked here because I have written in this line that o.find this under
What?
score is not equal to -1. I think it should have given an invalid username here, but
you're not using brackets.
I think it works actually with the if statement or in if else statement or
In any of these, actually, I always use brackets because I'm not sure. Maybe with the newer versions, it does work without brackets, but I always use
it is
brackets.
working without brackets, so I just
Okay.
So
So if you
the problem is that this code.find under I mean I have a problem with logic here, not with the syntax.
Yes,
The
yes.
code.find underscore is not equal to -1 because it is at the place of -1. You see the position of this.
No. It's not going to be at the, that's not the position. What happens is with the dot find function, if it finds it, it's going to return its position wherever it is. And the position is not going to be in a negative number. It's always going to be in a positive number. So it can be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or so on. Okay.
But this.
If it doesn't find it, if it does not find it, then it gives a -1.
Okay. If it's not find, if it does not find, then it will give a -1. And if it is not equal to -1, then it should display a user.
That basically means that it found it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's, okay.
Okay.
And then I'm not still successful in deciding if
ends with okay.
I've used this syntax, but this thing, how to find that what is the year group. I mean, this I could not.
What do you mean? But you have, but in the second line of your code, it does say year, right? So that is the year.
I mean, what is the year group of any student? I mean, if anyone is going to enter his
yes, so they're going to enter
how would to display this thing that this is your year group or whatever.
Yes, so you're going to write this year. Your year group equals year.
Only, and that will print. Yes,
yeah, that will print.
This one.
Yes.
Or your code or whatever.
Yes. Now the only problem, because I wrote about this much part as well in the script that I was writing. The only issue you will have here is that if they enter an invalid one, you're not asking them for another input.
Yes, that's the problem. And that I thought upon, but you see, I was so busy with this stuff, it was not working out. So
Yes, I can understand. But you get the basic idea at least. So you know how the different checks would work or should work.
Yes, I thought about that, but then I thought to, I mean,
yeah, that's just going to be one line at the top and one at the bottom.
I mean, so.
Okay, now this is a very good effort. I'm so glad. I didn't think it would be this difficult to do. I tried to keep it simple, but I also wanted to, keep everything in there that you had learned. So that
but I spent a lot of time working with this true and false statement. So because initially I wanted to rule out all the invalid usernames. So for that I tried to use this true and false statement, especially the false statement, but that wasn't working actually.
Yeah,
So
because for
I
all,
tried different syntax, different commands, but I don't know, it didn't.
yeah, it depends the command or the function that you're using. If it returns a true or a false, then it's going to check for a true or false. If it returns an answer in some other form, like this find thing,
And
so
also,
then it's
if yeah, for example, in this second, if rear dot is digit, what if it is not a digit? Then how
then it's not going to go into here.
But
That,
I think in that case we should display this thing that if this is not a digit, then we should print it that this is an invalid username. Or
so you can write it as an else for this if.
Okay. So if here dot is digit, I mean it would be true, then print valid, or if not else, print invalid username.
Else, yes,
That's
exactly.
also going to work. Okay, thank you.
No,
So can I stop sharing? If anyone else want to share also.
Okay, what about the rest? This is very good effort. You will need to, add in the while part and you can improve on it a little bit, but I think you get the basic idea of how it's going to work.
Yeah.
Yeah, what about the rest? Have you been able to do it? I know Muhammad Azam is stuck. I'm really sorry about that, Muhammad Azam. I did try to, give you hints here and there of how to do it, but I will share the complete code later on as well and add in comments for each part of the code so you understand what each part of the code is doing.
Roop, could I share mine? So, because even I do not understand how we'd put the while loop or we'd get it to run again.
Yes, you can share yours.
Okay, wait a second. Yeah, so I've made it simpler. Earlier, I was asking them for everything separately, the initial name, everything. Yeah. So I don't know where I'd put the while loop or for it to go back to this point.
Okay. If length username is less than 6, invalid username, try again. X equals false. No. Okay, did this work if X equals false?
Yeah, it does. I don't know I don't know, because if I just type this, it would give me a number, an integer, but
Yeah.
I don't know, the false true thing also works.
Okay,
I think true wouldn't work, but maybe false would, like if it's not an integer or something of that sort.
Okay, did you try and run this part?
Yeah, I did. Can I show it to you?
Yeah.
Wait, I'll share my entire screen. Okay.
Okay.
It's supposed to be 05 and then the right. Yeah, so if there won't be an underscore.
Yeah.
Like this. Oh, I don't know why it didn't work this time. Because it did work once, but pata nahi.
Because the result for this, जब आप dot find वाला use करते हैं, the result is always in numbers. If it finds it, then it's a positive number or a 0, मतलब जो भी position है उसकी. And if it doesn't find it, then it returns a -1.
That is so weird. Let me. Yeah, it isn't working. Okay. I thought I tested this thing. Okay, so I need to fix this. But Baki, where would I put the while wala yahan pe to, loop it back over here?
हाँ, उसके लिए you basically वो बिल्कुल टॉप से स्टार्ट होगा एंड देन उसके एंड पे नीचे वो आएगी एल्स वाली वो एक्सेप्शन जो है वो आएगी। वो मैं वही कह रही थी कि आई जस्ट कंप्लीट माय कोड और मैं उसमें कमेंट्स डाल के फॉर एवरीथिंग तो मैं फिर शेयर कर देती हूँ ताकि वो सबके लिए इजी हो जाए कि इससे कौन सा पार्ट क्या चेक कर रहा है।
Alright, that would be helpful.
ठीक है। हाँ, आपके इसमें अब you've done all of the basic checks, right?
Yeah, I have, but I thought that thing was working underscore valid, but I don't know. जबकि I think I tested it once. It did show me invalid या जो भी.
अच्छा.
So I don't know what happened. If I figure it out, I'll let you know.
Yes.
So बाकी things are working.
That's good. I think आप slides वो upload कर दीजिएगा. I think the second programming exercise जो था challenge वो they can do it in their own time.
That was very easy वैसे. I saw it so.
The second part, हाँ, इसके बाद it probably looks easy.
No, it is very easy. It's just adding up variables and strings.
Yes. So it's basically more about syntax.
Yeah.
So you need to know how to, write it all together in one form, in one line, essentially.
Azam has left.
Yes. That's okay. Well, it's almost time, 1 minute left. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm sorry I'm not hearing from any of you. I don't know where you've disappeared. Maybe I've scared you away, but we hope that you learned something during this course. And again, many thanks to KSS because this was their idea entirely. They got me back in touch with Python as well. So now I can brush up my skills back on Python. It's the in thing nowadays. So thank you, Mohsina, for being here, for moderating all of these sessions and not letting me run wild.
No. Thank you, Roop, for your time. And I'd just like to say if anyone has any feedback, then we'd really like to know that. I had an idea that we'd take a group photo together, but I feel like out of the very few people that we had, most of them
have left. Yeah, we should probably have.
Thank you, Mohsina, and thank you, Roop.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you from my side also. It was actually very good. I think the audience was, I would say, a bit diverse. The age group, we have been talking about age group today a lot, but the age group of the class was also a bit diverse. And I think my personal feeling is that it was conducted in a very good manner. And everybody had the opportunity and a very good opportunity to get along with everything. The pace was also, I had this feeling after the first session also, and this feeling has stayed, that the pace of the course was also very good, not very slow, not very fast also. And also I would really say the slides were also very nice. So all in all, I'm thankful to you both for conducting this session. And it's up to us, because I think it's just by learning by doing. And you have given us this confidence and introduction to it. So I think it's more over to us now to really carry it forward. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. I am flattered, really. Thank you for the nice and kind words. And I'm so glad that, it went like we had planned it to go. And yes, that's true. We did have quite a diversity in age. But since this was something new for all of you, we didn't have a lot of trouble in trying to, keep everyone together. And I'm always here. You have my email address. You can ask me any questions, any problems that you run into later as well. I'm happy to help.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for this offer, Roop. Very generous of you, indeed.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're most welcome. And we're also receiving some messages in the chat. So thank you, everyone, for such nice words. It's really, lifted up my spirits. I think I can do more of this now.
Yeah, you should. Thank you, Roop. And like you said, you will be here. So I'd just like to say if you could share a few more resources, anything, to which are of the next level, that even though we might plan, a medium or a harder level of this course, but till that thing is finalized. So any resources recommended by you would be very helpful.
Yeah.
And I think it's only once we learn how to implement these in practical problems, then it will be a very good practice for us. So I guess there might be websites, right, which would have exercises or actual
Yes.
problems.
There's lots of them that have notes, that have little exercises, that have built-in shells, in fact, as well, where you can edit parts of the code and see how the changes that come in or the errors that you run into. So there's lots of stuff available out there on Python now that you can use.
Yep. So I guess that's it, right?
Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, everyone, again. And we'll hopefully stay in touch.
Inshallah. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Roop.
Bye-bye.
Bye.